Kern and present and chairing this meeting. Starting with committee members, Linda Dixon.
Here.
Chris Fletcher.
Here.
Stephen Hartman.
Present.
Charles Ziedler. And he's on mute, but he said here. And staff, Sherwin Maloney, planner.
Hello.
Jeremy Fink, manager of planning. Aaron Weltzel, alternate secretary treasurer.
Here.
Nancy Thompson, secretary treasurer.
Here.
I will now provide an explanation of the procedures for this meeting. Each application will be read by Erin, and she will ask each applicant to make a brief presentation not to exceed 5 minutes. The committee will be given an opportunity to question the applicant. Any other person who has registered with the recording secretary and is wishing to address an application either for or against will then be given the opportunity to speak. Please make sure you have turned on your microphone and video and identify yourself clearly for the recording secretary. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the committee will make a decision on the application. Once the discussion on your application is complete, please mute your microphone and turn off the video. You are free to leave the meeting at this time or remain and listen to the balance of the applications. The applicants are advised that each application has a 20-day appeal period as required under the Planning Act. In accordance with Bill 23, appeals may only be submitted by the applicant, the municipality, certain public bodies, and the minister. The last day of appeal for the applications heard today is December 7th, 2023. At this time, I will ask if any members of the committee, if they are declaring a pecuniary conflict of interest with any of the applications. Seeing none, Erin, could you please read the first application?
First application for minor variance application A29-2023 for William Van de Ven and Tara Schuett. The subject property is 72 Catherine Street South, Winterburn. And the zone and use is settlement residential R1 with an existing single detached dwelling, pool shed, and a detached accessory building/dwelling unit. The applicants are requesting the following. A, relief from section 6.4.7 to reduce the required rear yard setback from 4 meters to approximately 2.9 meters to recognize an accessory dwelling unit in an existing detached accessory building. And B, relief from section 8.3.2 to recognize the existing lot width of approximately 27 meters, whereas 30 meters is required to permit the future redevelopment of the dwelling. All right, and Tara and William are here. So if you, did I lose them? Oh no, there you are.
Yes.
Turn to camera, and so you guys can go ahead if you'd like to begin.
Yes, hello. I'm William Van de Ven. I'm here with my wife Tara. So I think it's fairly accurate what you've read off. This is what we're looking for. Our intention is to build a new home on the lot next year and create a small accessory dwelling so that we have somewhere to stay while we're under construction.
Thank you. Any members of the committee have questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Any members of the public here to speak for or against this application?
We do not have anybody registered.
Oh, excellent then. Then committee, it's up to you. How would the committee go ahead, Linda?
With me a second. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that minor variance application A29-2023 for the property known municipally as 72 Catherine Street South in Winterburn to provide relief from section 6.4.7 to reduce the required rear yard setback from 4 meters to 2.9 meters to recognize an existing accessory dwelling unit, and also relief from section 8.3.2 to recognize the existing lot width of 27 meters.
Thanks. And a seconder? Charles? Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor? And that's everyone, so no one is opposed. The motion is passed. I want to remind the applicant the last day of appeal expires on December 7th, 2023. Thank you for participating in this meeting, and please remember to mute your microphone and turn off your video.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Erin, can you please read the next application?
The next application for minor variance application A13-2022 and consent applications B15-2022 and B16-2022 for the applicant Matthias Mueller. The property is 6 Covered Bridge Drive in West Montrose. The zone and use is settlement residential R1F with floodplain regulations, an existing single detached dwelling, and accessory buildings. These applications were deferred for up to 6 months in April 2023 to allow the applicant time to address required agency study requirements and comments. The applicant has provided additional information for consideration of their proposal to create a new residential lot and is requesting the following. For application B15 2022, to sever an irregular shaped portion of property having approximately 6 meters frontage on Covered Bridge Drive and an approximate lot area of 1,707 square meters from 6 Covered Bridge Drive for the purpose of creating a new residential lot. And application B16 2022 to grant a 3.5 meter wide access easement to be located on the north and west sides of the existing dwelling on the proposed severed lands in favor of the proposed retained lands. The proposed severed lands, being 6 Covered Bridge Drive, will contain the existing single detached dwelling and an accessory building. The proposed retained lands contain a frame garage and will have approximately 8.8 meters frontage on Covered Bridge Drive and be approximately 1,205 square meters, 1.1 hectare in size. And then application A13 2022 is subject to approval of the above noted consent applications. The following variances are required. Relief from section 8.3.3A to reduce the required lot frontage from 18 meters to approximately 6 meters for the proposed severed lands. Relief from section 8.3.2 to recognize the existing lot width of the proposed retained lands at approximately 8.8 meters, whereas 30 meters is required. And relief from section 8.3.3A to recognize the existing lot frontage of the proposed retained lands at approximately 8.8 meters, whereas 18 meters is required. And we have the applicant, Matt Mueller, and Nick Bogart here from MHBC Planning. You can go ahead then.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Nick Bogart, and I'm an associate with MHBC Planning, here as agent for the applicant. Thank you for the chance to speak today. Appreciate the overview, Aaron, of the application. So the purpose of the proposal is to create a new lot from the larger land holdings in order to better utilize the subject lands. Subject lands currently have a single detached home, 2 driveways, and outbuildings. Due to the configuration of the property, variances are also required, as is an easement to provide for permanent safe access, because the existing driveway directly off of Covered Bridge is below the floodline. For a bit of refresher, the applications were first deferred to allow for such work as hydrogeology to be undertaken and reviewed by the region, which took some time to get organized, as well as some further GRCA review. This did occur. The deferral earlier this year was to allow for the full EIS to be undertaken, and that was to be done now instead of post-approval. And that's been undertaken as well. It's now been signed off on by the GRCA, and now we're back here before the committee. I submit that the work undertaken to date by the project team has been very comprehensive, resulted in significant financial outlay to our client, and that the committee should feel comfortable supporting the applications. I did want to just take a few minutes to address some of the matters noted in the township staff comments as reasons not to approve the applications. So the first was demonstrating a buildable envelope. This has probably been the item we've spent the most time on. We've done field work to accurately delineate where the wetland is, done slope stability work, hydrogeology study, and now septic design has also been completed. The site of the proposed home has been carefully chosen to ensure it's located at an acceptable location relative to the existing slopes, wetlands, floodline, and the orientation has also been adjusted, and the size of the house shrunk a bit just to ensure all the requirements can be met. The next one was the safe access. This matter, we did previously address it in consultation with GRCA staff who are governing the safe access policies, and agreement was reached that the easement approach is acceptable. Then there was also comment about the tree line along the property edge by the driveway. I just wanted to note that that will remain intact. The next one was drainage and topography. As mentioned, our team undertook studies regarding these matters at the home location based on those findings. and understand from our client that he discussed the drainage concerns with neighbors on Hill Street, and they've agreed to work together to resolve it amicably as things are finalized. And there was comments in the comments about improvements proposed for the direct access on Covered Bridge Drive. So just wanted to confirm there's no improvements proposed there as part of this application. And to ensure grading is addressed, it's to be addressed through the GRCA and the building permit process. And then the last thing was the region and the GRCA. So the GRCA has been very involved in the work undertaken, including the environmental and wetland. And they provided their sign off, as I mentioned, that the proposal can proceed. Most items from the region have been addressed, including review of the hydrogeology report, resulting in broad agreement on the findings. Final sign off on that was pending the EIS work, which required multi-season field work. And the reason we don't yet have that is due to time to complete the environmental work. But then we just also found out the region's peer reviewer had been off sick. So we'd recommend that this be addressed through a condition of approval. Then there were also concerns in the comment package about views and impacts on the heritage landscape. This matter was the subject of a separate visual impact and cultural heritage report, which looked at each of the attributes listed in the official plan about the cultural heritage landscape and concluded that the proposal meets all the requirements. We did look at views as well, and the building will be low profile, not visible behind the significant treat areas, visible between the water and the portion of the property where the dwellings were located. So just wanted to point that out. And lastly, understand there was some neighbor comments about drainage and grading. As mentioned, our client has discussed with the one neighbor to address the concern. There's also matters that engineering staff and the GRCA have recommended be addressed through proposed conditions should the applications be approved. Finally, we've reviewed the conditions that the GRCA did propose and the region, and also from township engineering staff. We don't have any concerns with those proposed conditions. We would request one additional condition be added, providing for final sign-off by the region regarding the hydrogeology peer review. So that was all my notes. Thank you again, and happy to answer any questions from the committee. As mentioned, our client is also here. If there's any questions from him.
Thank you. I guess at this point, I'll open up to the committee. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Just so I'm clear, in looking at the plan that was circulated, is there any intent at all to put this access through to Covered Bridge Drive, or is the intent to use the easement for the main access on a regular basis?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The intent is to use the main access to the new dwelling, which would be the same as the current dwelling. So that was the need for the easement to provide for the permanent means of transportation through there.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no intent at all to use the other frontage piece. That's now what the minor variance is for. That's what you're saying to me.
That's correct, because it's sitting below the floodplain. So there's the concern that if that was the only access in, if there's a flood condition, then you could potentially have.
Yeah, so I want to know what's the permanent. So the permanent route is going to go through the existing residential area.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant from the committee? Go ahead, Linda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Nick. So I hear what you're saying about the Hydro G report. Now I note that the region's comments were November 6th, and in those comments, and it was in bold, that they were recommending deferral for a scoped Hydro G, but I'm hearing you say that they're satisfied with that, with the hydro as noted, because I'm getting a different information from their report.
Yes, so perhaps I can clarify. So I mentioned that there was broad agreement on the Hydro G. So earlier, before the environmental work was done, there were some comments from the region's peer reviewer, and our client had gone through and addressed most of those with the region. And then the final sign off was pending the EIS work. So that's the part that we're at now. We just need the final sign off from the region on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead, Linda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you again to Nick. And I noted somewhere in the comments about potentially needing an easement for septic attenuation, because there's still some question about the septic system and its impacts.
That is correct. And in the region's comments, they note that could be a condition of approval, so that there would be the need to get the additional easement should everything be approved.
Okay.
But that was the agreed upon way to just ensure that nothing can happen on that part of the property.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do this, no questions. I just do still want to make one comment, Mr. Chairman, and that fact, I think at the last meeting, I did note that I had concerns with creating a new lot via an easement. And while most of the other issues may have been resolved, that one is still outstanding from my perspective. So thank you.
Thanks. At this point, if there's no questions for the applicant, I think we do have some registered participants. Is that correct, Erin?
Yes, so in your circulation packages, there were multiple letters received, and we did have some of those individuals register. So with us this afternoon, we do have two individuals. We have Johan Koneman, and we also have Sharon Holhorst. So Mr. Koneman, if you would like to add anything, you're welcome to now, and then we will move on to the next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Jochen Koenemann, and my family resides and owns the property at 28 Hill Street in West Montrose. As you did read in the statement my family submitted to council, we do have certain concerns regarding Mr. Müller's minor variance application. Foremost among these concerns is the groundwater drainage issue that we face. Our property, as well as those of neighbors, have significant amount of water flowing under them. So let me provide some additional more context to this. Several years ago, the township installed a water main under Hill Street. In order to work on this, the contractor hired a third-party company specializing on groundwater extraction. And the company pumped 400,000 liters a day of water out of the ground in order to work on the street. So this amount of water is going under our property. When the addition of our house was built prior to 1980, much before I owned the property, the previous owner of our house installed a French drain that transports water from our basement to Mr. Müller's property, and it resurfaces roughly where the applicant is proposing to build a dwelling. After we bought the house in 2015, this drain became clogged a few times because of root penetration, and this caused the water level in our basement to rise almost immediately, which in turn caused flooding of our basement if we did not immediately put in place countermeasures. In the short term, these countermeasures included the use of pumps to evacuate excess water, and since then we have also replaced the root penetration-prone big O-pipe segments of the drain by PVC and poly pipes. So the above is meant to illustrate why Mr. Müller's plans instill a certain amount of apprehension into my family. So we clearly would not want our house to flood on a routine basis, and clearly our house and our property is impacted by this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hillhorst, do you have something you would like to add?
Yes, just as I said, for the drain also causes me some question too. If he has a problem with it, will it affect my property as well? And also the view of the heritage land. Heritage land that's not really fitting for the view we wanted to when we lived here, with the river and the bridge with the house in the way. And also, I don't know how they're minor variances when a lot of them are less than what is allowed. They're less than half of what the variance should be. That's basically what I have.
Thank you very much. So I think at this point, that's everyone that's here. So I guess committee, any other questions for applicant, staff, or discussion before we move to a motion? Yeah. Go ahead, Member Fletcher.
So can I ask staff, please, to comment on the drainage issues for the people who are on the other street, and what was done actually for drainage in that particular area, and whether or not they are of the belief that something else needs to be done.
Go ahead,
Thank
Chairman.
you, Mr. Chair. So to our knowledge, that French drain was installed. We don't have any understanding of any easements or any legal agreement that was put into place to implement it. However, that drainage does happen, that flow does happen. So our engineering staff would suggest that we cannot negatively impact the adjacent properties in any form or fashion. So any plan moving forward should not negatively impact the neighbors. So if they were to remove that French drain, there'd obviously be a negative impact, and there would be a civil matter as a result. So our recommendation would be that they resolve this issue through at least some form of easements, or that would continue to allow the water to flow through the adjacent property legally, and just recognize it, because obviously something was created there that's a little more formal than just overland flow. So
just to clarify, who created the drain, the new drainage scheme, the French drain? Who put the French drain in?
To our knowledge, it was landowners. We don't know which ones exactly, but the property owners, former property owners in the area, put them in.
Just to clarify, at the time when this was put in, this must have been in the 1980s, all these three properties were one.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments from committee? I don't see any. How would the committee like to proceed? Member Dixon.
Okay. Bear with me while I get the report up. Sorry. Okay. So, we'll do these one at a time, correct, Aaron?
Sounds good. I will keep track.
Okay, so starting with the minor variance. Minor variance application A13-2022 for the property known municipally as 6 Covered Bridge Drive in Westmont Rose, to provide relief to recognize the required lot frontage of 18 meters to 6 meters for the severed lands, with respect relief from the zoning bylaw to reduce the required lot width of 30 meters to 8.8 meters for the proposed retained lands, and relief from the zoning bylaw to reduce the required lot frontage of 18 meters to 8.8 meters for the proposed lands be denied.
Thank you. Seconder? Member Ziedler? Sorry, Member Fletcher. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? That's unanimous. No one opposed. So that motion is passed. I'll do the reminder of the appeal period, I think, at the end. So if we want to move on to B15-2022.
Would you like me to continue?
I think, Member Dixon, that sounds great.
Okay. Okay, hold on here. Okay, so the consent application B15-2022, again, for the property known municipally as 6 Covered Bridge Drive in Westmont Rose, to sever a lot in the R1 zone having an area of 1,707 square meters and a frontage of 6 meters, containing an existing single detached dwelling and accessory building, be denied. If you want, for the reasons outlined in the planning report.
Seconder? Member Hartman? All those in favor? And that's everyone. So that motion is passed. And I believe we still have B16 2022. Member Dixon, if you're willing to.
Yep. Application B16 2022, again, for the property known municipally as 6 Covered Bridge Drive in Westmount Rose, for the purpose of creating a new easement to provide access in favor of the retained lands created under consent application B15 2022, having a width of 3.5 meters and an area of 535 square meters be denied.
And the seconder, Member Ziedler, all those in favor? And that's unanimous, so no one is opposed. So that motion is passed. I want to remind the applicant that the last day of appeal expires on December 7th, 2023. Thank you for participating in the meeting, and please remember to mute your microphone and turn off your video. Thank you, Member Fletcher.
Just before the people leave, I would strongly recommend to the other property owners who are here today who have drainage related to this piece of property, that they should enter into negotiations with them in order to establish correct easements, so their problems don't continue in the future.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Okay, seeing as that's the last application, let's move on to the minutes from the previous meeting. Have the committee members had an opportunity to review the minutes as circulated for the previous meeting held on October 16th, 2023? And if so, are there any changes required? Okay, seeing none, we just need the motion to accept those.
I would move.
Perfect, move,
I'll
seconder.
second.
Chris, excellent. All those in favor? And that's passed. I don't believe that, Aaron, there's nothing further to discuss.
Dates.
Can we just look at the 2024
sure,
meeting
yes.
dates? Yep,
2024
thank you.
dates.
I'm fine with those.
Yes, if we can just get someone to move and second those dates, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. Chris has moved, seconder. Charles, all those in favor? That's everyone. Those dates are approved. All right, as there's nothing further to discuss, I will declare this committee of